All right, this is applying to law school, and this is just going to be an overview of the process, things to be thinking about, things to be planning ahead for, and then certainly you're welcome to meet with me or another pre-law advisor and sometime down the road about your specific questions and concerns, although we should have time for some questions at the end. Right. Oops, let me just stop share a second here. Bring this back to here. All right, for some reason I'm having the same share thing that I had problems with last time. So let me see if I can make this work better. Very strange. All right. We will go ahead and use the screen since it doesn't seem to be advancing without this. All right. Some initial considerations that we have here. Is law school the right step? And this is all kind of law school exploration. You may have met with me, talk about this at some point, and we may have gone through this, but it's always a good idea to sort of consider what you're getting into because it's a major process just to apply. It's expensive to apply, certainly expensive to go, and very stressful both in the application process and in the when you actually go. So good step. You definitely want to know why you want to go. Is it the right step for you? These are a couple questions you can ask yourself that you should prepare yourself for as you apply. Do you like to look at analyze problems analytically and logically? And are there certain problems out there in the world that you are interested in helping your clients solve? Law school law is a service industry. You're working for clients and on behalf of clients. It's not policy, which is really advocating for change and that kind of thing. Law is based on rules and logical analysis of rules and applying rules to facts. Happy to talk about that more with you one-on-one, but those are the kind of things to think about. Is this something that's really going to be a good fit for me? So you want to know why you want to go. That's going to be a key question on the law school admission side, is trying to figure out what it is that is this person ready? How mature are they? Do they really know why they want to go? Is it kind of think, oh, well, I don't know what else to do with my liberal arts degree, so I guess I'll go to law school. Or I don't have a job, but I'm graduating next year, so I guess I better go to law school. But they really want to know why you want to go. So, and that's something that we can talk about on our own. It's generally the first question that I ask people when I meet with them for the first time is, so what got you interested in law? And that's just something to really to think about. If it's a purely academic interest, that's one thing, but there are not a lot of law professor jobs out there. The vast majority, 99.9% of people who graduate from law school end up practicing law and representing clients. 3 years of your life, very expensive, very stressful. And just keeping in mind that it's really focused on clients and it's a service industry and helping your clients. A lot of great stuff you can do, from keeping somebody in their apartment that they're getting evicted from, helping them work out a payment plan in court, to stopping a pipeline, coming through Appalachia. So it's a lot of different things you can do in that way, but it's really helping clients solve a problem. So think about the kind of problems that interest you, and that will be very helpful in terms of preparing your application. All right, timing. Key thing is, should you take time off or should you apply directly from Reed? The average starting age now in law school is 25, 26. It didn't used to be that way. When I went to law school a million years ago, most of the class, probably 80% of the people, 80+% of the people were right out of undergrad. But now it's very much shifted. And so a lot of law schools, most law schools, are looking for people with some kind of work experience. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Lots of advantages to that work experience. So they're not talking about people having 12 or 15 years of work experience, but just 2 years maybe might be good. They don't really care what that experience is, whether it's in law, working for a law firm as a paralegal or legal assistant or project assistant. They have all different kind of names for these entry-level legal positions where you're helping out on cases or deals, as the case may be. But you could also do Teach for America, Fulbright, AmeriCorps, work for a nonprofit, work on the Hill. It doesn't really matter, what you do, as long as it's something substantive, because they really want to see that people have the professional skills to succeed in law. So you've worked at a full-time job, you've worked under stress, you've had a supervisor, you've had to be evaluated. You've worked as part of a team, you've come up with new ideas to resolve problems in your workspace, those kinds of things. That's what they really want to see. And what will come out of that is a strong letter from your employer. We'll talk about letters of recommendation in a bit, but you can get a very strong letter of recommendation from an employer, particularly if you've been working for them for at least a year before you apply. So those are things to think about. Also, too, if you're writing a thesis, you can't really use your thesis advisor as a recommender because you won't have written it yet in the fall of senior year. So that's another thing, that if you take that time off, you'll have that thesis advisor. Also, fourth year, people's GPAs do tend to go up. Law school admissions is heavily numbers based, or to a large extent numbers based. So it's always good to have a strong GPA. If you put some distance between yourself with the work experience, professional experience, they'll kind of help you to downplay the GPA. We'll talk about GPA specifically, and specifically Reed GPAs later on, but that can be helpful. And so it's really a good thing. I encourage people just to take time off, just because it does make them more competitive in general, no matter the GPA, for law school. But it certainly can't help, and it gives you a nice focus. Makes that whole question that I asked initially about why do you want to go a lot easier, because they don't tend to ask that so much of people who've been out and working for a couple of years. They tend to really focus on it with people who are graduating seniors. That said, we always have at Reed, 3, 4, 5 maybe seniors who do apply to law school in fall. Happy to help you. Happy to help if you're one of those people. Happy to help you with that process. But just know that law schools are sort of favoring students heavily that have applicants that have work experience. All right, when to apply. Now we're getting into sort of the details of the process here. So you'll apply no later than October 31st or November 1st of the fall before you plan to attend. So in other words, if you plan to start law school in August of 25, you would be applying by October 31st of this year. So kind of a long process. I mean, you'll start probably, and you'd probably start now if you're applying for the fall of 25, just because you've got to take the LSAT. It's a long process. And then but you may not hear from law schools at all until the end of January of 25, even if you apply by the end of October. That's just how the process works. Law schools do tend to look at applications in the order in which they were received. So the earlier you get them in, the better. if, for example, you're taking the August LSAT this year, and you can take it again in September and October, that will still work for the October 31st deadline. But you do well, and you say, fine, I'm done. I'm one and done with the LSAT. I made what I was getting, my average on the practice exams, and so I'm done. I'm going to go and apply. Well, that's great, because then you can apply even in September. You don't need to, but you can, and why not apply earlier? So it's not like they look at each application exactly in the order in which it was received, but they will look at, say, the first 200 applications that they get, and then the next 200 or 500, whatever they do. So they look at them in batches like that. So always better to be in on the earlier side. And then, as I said, you won't hear from them, though. You may hear some people. Few people hear things from a few schools in November, December, early January, but most it's like late January to mid to the end of March. Law schools have really been dragging out this process, so it's a longer process. All right, where to apply? JD is a general degree. There's a few, nuances I will add to that, but it's a general degree. So that means that no matter where you go to law school, you get a JD. There's no like, oh, you can major in something, and that would be a really good school to major in this. Unlike undergrad schools, law schools are not really all that different. They're very much alike. Your first year classes will look the same. Your first year schedule at any law school essentially will look the same, depending on, I think most places now you can take 1, maybe 2 electives in spring semester. But generally everybody takes the same core classes your first year. Things like property, crim law, federal civil procedure, contracts, torts, that kind of thing. And then you may have some optional electives that you can take as well. And legal writing, of course, probably the most important one. So everybody will take those same classes no matter where you go. And then that leaves essentially 2 years for you to get sort of practical experience working in a clinic and taking classes. And if you want to do environmental law, say there might be, 2, maybe 3 related classes to environmental law. So it's not like you're majoring in environmental law, but you can obviously take those classes. You can look, as I say, further down there, check to see whether they have a clinic in your area of interest, or perhaps a journal or a center. So that would be nice, if you're looking at schools in the Northeast or in the Northwest. You've got a number of schools there. Do they all at least have a clinic in environmental law? Maybe one has a center in environmental law. Maybe one even has a journal of environmental law, which you could write an article for and get published. So that would be kind of cool. There are those things, but whether they completely outweigh, I would say, as long as they've got an environmental law clinic, they'll probably do okay with environmental law at that school. These other things would be nice if they have them. If you've got sort of a all things being equal kind of decision to make about schools, then maybe that would weigh in the one school's favor. The key to deciding on where to apply are really the ABA 509 reports. These are the ABA reports that are required under ABA Rule 509 from every law school. Every law school literally has to copy and paste their form as it is on their site, so that they can't be hiding things or making things pretty. They always have to post the form. And so you can compare all sorts of things on this with their median LSAT, their median GPA, percentage of international students, percentage of federal clerkships, percentage of people. Probably the most important one is the percentage of students that graduate into JD required jobs, which means they are actual lawyers after they graduate. And the lower that percentage is, the tougher it is going to be to get a job as a lawyer once you graduate. So, but there's lots of things you can compare on, and you can go to the ABA website, American Bar Association website, and you click on the 509 reports, and you can put in like 3 or 4, I think, maybe 5 schools on, and you can compare them for median LSAT, median GPA, median debt load, that kind of thing, too, is important. So you can compare them on these different axes, I guess, or different elements. So that's a really good way to sort of compare too. And then you'd apply as you did for undergrad with safeties, targets, and reaches, depending on sort of numbers, at least initially. But then there are other factors too, as I mentioned below, geography and cost of living. Certainly, going to school in New York is going to cost a lot more, say, than going to school in Portland or Chicago. Same thing for Boston, DC, very expensive places to live. San Francisco, expensive place to live. So keeping that in mind too when you're trying to decide where you want to apply. Geography can be important if you know that, like, for example, here I'm in Chicago, but y'all are in Portland, and Portland has 2 very good law schools, Willamette and Lewis and Clark, and a lot of Reed students fall in love with Portland if they're not from Oregon, still fall in love with Portland, and even if they're not from Oregon, and and they just want to stay there. They want to work there. They want to go to law school there. They want to just stay there. Their friends are there. They love it. So we have that's certainly a geographical thing. Or if you have family in Texas, say, and you want to go back to Texas, I mean, that could be important for you. Or you see yourself living in New York, again, an important consideration. It does help if you, for example, most of the people who go to Lewis and Clark or Willamette will probably stay in Portland or the Northwest. So there is some connection between the school and the area. Particularly if you're interested in public sector work, it's often helpful to go to a school in the location where you want to work, because as part of law school, you get credits for experiential learning. So you can work for a nonprofit or government entity in that city where the law school is, and then get a job there, after graduation, because you have paid your dues. They know you. They're going to hire you more than they will somebody else who they don't know, who hasn't worked for them. True, you can work anywhere, over the summer, but you can also get these credits for working, particularly as a third-year student, working, up to 12 hours, I think in your final year for a particular nonprofit or government. So it's really kind of cool. So thinking of that too, that can lead into a job right there. But all that stuff we can kind of talk about as we get into it. All right, parts of the application. This is the real sort of nitty-gritty here. We'll go through step by step here. So the first place to start is lsac.org. That has lots of information for applicants. It'll talk about all these different things that I'm going to talk about. It'll talk about setting up your account, signing up for the LSAT, what the LSAT is, all of that. And then also signing up for Law Hub, which is really, that's where that's sort of the nexus for a lot of the pre-law advising materials that they have. They have, of course, a lot of things do these days, a free section and a premium section. So you can start with the free section. They have videos that will help you study for the LSAT, free videos. They have, I think, 6 practice exams that will help you prepare for the LSAT. And then there's the higher one that has like more practice exams and that kind of thing. You can look at that. The LSAT is still, even though it's a lot of changes going on in the law school admissions world these days. One of them is that the LSAT has changed its format. It used to be 3 types of questions. Now it's only 2 types of questions. The 2 that are left are the reading comp and the logical reasoning. So they got rid of the logic games, if any of you are familiar with that section. June will be the last test that will use that. So you'll still have 4 sections of the test, but 2 of the sections will be logical reasoning and 1 will be reading comp. And the 4th section will be an experimental one for them to test out future test questions. Of course, you won't know what that one is when you take it. There are schools, you'll see on schools' website, well, we take the GRE. You know, if you, first of all, if you ever take the LSAT, you have to tell them your LSAT score. And they don't count the GRE. But if you're thinking about, well, I don't know about grad school versus law school, and you know, GRE would just be one test and all that. That's fine, but balance that. Look, you can look on the on those ABA 509 reports, and that will tell you what percentage of students were admitted without the LSAT, you know, something other than the LSAT, another standardized test, and that could be the GRE. A very small percentage, like 5%. Lots of scholarship money also goes to people with strong LSAT scores. JD Next is a brand new test that has its own, has been published by Aspen Publishers, a legal publishing house, and they a lot of law schools are accepting that, but it's still up in the air. Each law school is different. Do they take it in place of the LSAT, in addition to the LSAT? It's a little bit wonky right now in terms of trying to do that. So if you're going to be applying in the next year or two, or even 3, I'd probably just go with the LSAT, because that's really still what law schools are going to require. You're always safe with that. And now they've gotten rid of the logic games. That was often the most challenging section. The LSAT, you know, should be a little more doable and much less scary. GPA. This is always a tough one for Reedies, because as we all know, at Reed there is no grade inflation. So and our grades are curved to like a 3.2, I think is what it is. So where a 3.2 would be 50%, top 50% at Reed, it could be, you know, top 75% at some other school. So so how does that actually work? Well, yes, you will see those. They have to report their actual GPA medians. So your GPA will get reported as it is, but they will also LSAC will also send a report to every law school that you apply to. And that report, not only will it report your LSAT scores, but it will also compare your GPA only against other GPAs of Reed students. So they will see, oh, okay, wow, yeah, this school has no grade inflation, other schools have grade inflation. Our students, I imagine, for the most part, end up below the 50th percentile, so the bottom half of the class in terms of GPAs for law school, just because it's easy for them to get 3 9s from applicants at much easier schools where they have grade inflation. So don't worry about it too much. It is out there. It is a thing to think about. But every Reed student will be able to get into a law school, and the GPA will not affect you as much as you may think it does or will. But each person's an individual. Happy to talk that through. But don't let GPA. Oh, my GPA is too low, I won't get into law school. Don't let the GPA stand between you and your goals of being a lawyer, because it won't. You will be able to make that happen. That will happen for you. Letters of recommendation, very important. Generally, you'll submit 2 to 3. If you are applying as a senior, you'll submit 2 from 2 professors at Reed. Again, hopefully people you've had from more than one class, that would be ideal, or at least people who you know your work really well. What you would do is go into them during their office hours, or if you're out of town, Zoom with them, remind them of who you are if you've been out for a while. And in any event, tell them why you want to go to law school and what that decision is about. A little bit about what you need from them. It's not the law school letters of rec are not that different from grad school. Still going to focus on academic potential, not so much, creating new ideas in a certain field, but it will really focus on analytical skills, writing skills, researching skills, class participation, confidence, maturity, all these kind of things that professors, particularly in small classes like at Reed, that they can really look at that, and that will be that will be hugely helpful. So again, we can talk over, spend some time talking, well, should we use this professor? This is the deal with this professor. This is the deal with this other professor. Maybe it's somebody, in addition to having them in class, you've been a research assistant for them, or somebody worked with them in some other capacity. So that also can help with these letters. The third letter would be from, if you were on a team or something like that, I suppose that person could do it. That would be where your employer, if you have a full-time employer, that would be good for them to do that. Or if you've worked at some place all the way through undergrad, whether it's legal employment or not, but you've really put in, you've got some of those professional skills that I talked about. That might be helpful there too. You could use an internship and see if somebody from that could write for you. So that would be a good third one. They really don't want more than 2 from professors. They sometimes will say, we'll take up to 4, but that doesn't mean they want to see 4. So they're perfectly happy with 2 or 3, depending on whether you're a graduating senior or whether you're applying as an alum. And again, I'm happy to chat about that. Personal statement is something that's required across the board at every law school. You can draft up one and use it for every single law school. The personal statement does not refer to any particular law school unless a prompt from a particular law school says, oh, include in your personal statement reasons why you want to attend our school. Okay, well, then you have to add in a paragraph about that school and explain why you want to go there. Generally, it should be 2 to 3 pages, double-spaced, readable font. And it should talk about what drives you, what motivates you. They want to know what kind of person what kind of person you are, what kind of person is applying. Is this somebody who's going to have the characteristics of an attorney, that's going to be able to have, confidence and maturity, and they know what they want, and, they've learned resilience and they've learned other things through their life experiences. It's very experiential. It's not just kind of, oh, I got interested in law because I read this theory of law book and this and so-and-so's class, and I'm just thinking about law, and what they really want, because law is, it's half academic, half trade school, and so they really want that real world understanding and approach that you're going to make a difference in your clients' lives by representing them. So they want to see that kind of real experiential kind of examples. And then this is something that I'm happy to review for you. So just draft up something. I often tell people maybe you could try, because people find this is really hard because it's not academic writing, it's personal. And so I thought, well, how would you start out maybe by just like you were talking to a friend or writing a letter to a friend or whatever it would be, kind of sort of about yourself and what's brought you here and what's got you interested in law school and what really motivates you and drives you, what really thrills you about life and doing stuff. What do you enjoy out of all the stuff that you do? And start with that. But again, I'm happy to help with that. The background statement, it used to be a diversity statement before the Supreme Court eliminated affirmative action almost a year ago now. And all law schools have replaced those with background statements that are very general. And so they will say, is there anything in your background that has influenced who you are? And so you could use anything. It could be standard racial ethnic categories. It could be first gen. It could be low income. It could be LGBTQA+. Could be any of those kinds of things that they're looking for. Again, if you read the prompt and you're like, well, gosh, I don't know what to really write for this. Again, that's something that I'm happy to chat with you about. So the law schools are trying to still keep their diversity going. So keep diverse classes coming and stuff. So this is how they're doing that to kind of conform to the letter of the law, but still achieve their ends. Resume, which they want is, 2 pages are okay. They like extracurriculars. You don't need to do a ton, but they like 1 or 2, and one in particular that may show a leadership. You don't need to be, found your own student organization or be president of a student organization, but just taking on some leadership role rather than just being a member. So they like those because those show, again, leadership, initiative, teamwork. Maybe some of that is involved in the issue in legal issues that you might want to get involved as a lawyer later on, but they like those. So, so feel free to expand onto 2 pages, and again, I'm happy to review that. This thing. The cutoff there at the bottom is transcript. So, but that's pretty straightforward. You'll just load that onto the LSAC website. And when I say the LSAC website, you see this little acronym off to the left, the CAS, that's the Credential Assembly Service. And that is something that's your online file, essentially. You do everything in terms of the applications through the lsac.org website. All the schools applications are linked from there. You apply through those links, and then you attach all this information. You attach your letters of recommendation, your letters of recommendation aside, your personal statement, your background statement, your resume, your transcript, those all you upload yourself. Letters of recommendation, you will get an opportunity to waive your right to see those, which everybody does. So once you do that and you enter the recommenders' emails, then they hit submit, they will get a prompt from LSAC that gives them the link to upload the letters directly so that you're not seeing them, which is something that they look for. Cool. All right. So those are all the parts of the application. Again, some planning your time can take a lot of time to fill out all the applications, depending on how many schools you apply to. Like I said, the background statement, you got to always read the prompts for these, but basically the personal statement, background statement, those can be the same for all the schools. It's not like you need to write, if you're applying to 15 schools, you need to write 15 different ones. No. Okay, so how do you pay for all of this? CLBR, good news, CLBR can help fund the LSAT, which is about $200 to take that, and the setting up your credential assembly service file, which is again another $200 bucks. Before you apply to CLBR, though, please apply for the LSAC fee waiver. Do this well in advance of when you plan to take the LSAT. Like if you're planning on taking August, I would do that very soon, like no later than the beginning of May, or maybe mid-May, applying for the fee waiver. And there are 2 tiers. So each one, obviously, the lower one gives you less, the higher one gives you more. If you are getting financial aid, need-based financial aid through READ, then you will most likely be able to get a fee waiver. Also, too, if your fee waiver is denied from LSAC, then you can appeal, and a lot of times appeals are granted. So you end up getting the fee waiver anyway, and that is a really good deal because it pays for like 2 LSATs, it pays for 6 law school application fees. You get charged $45 every time you apply to a school. It pays for your credential assembly service setup. So it's a really good deal. So definitely look into that. Even with scholarships and that law schools give, nearly everybody has to take out some kind of loans, even if you get a full ride, in other words, a full tuition scholarship. A few schools will have a stipend in addition to that will cover some of the living expenses and books and stuff, but most law schools not. So so everybody has to take out some kind of loans, hopefully not large ones. Every law school has either need-based aid or merit-based aid or some combination of the two. Each law school will say on their website what they do. Very top law schools like Yale, Stanford, Harvard give no merit-based aid at all. They only give need-based aid. Most schools will give a combination of need-based and merit-based. Some schools will say, oh, well, we have, you're getting such a generous merit-based scholarship from us that's all we can give you. So they're not going to give you any need-based aid. So, it'll depend on the school and what you get from them. But again, that's something you'll have plenty of time to think about and discuss January, February, and March of before the fall that you're gonna start law school after you've applied. LRAPs, loan repayment assistance programs, and this is for people who are very public sector focused. Most law schools have an LRAP program. You can look this up on law schools' websites. This is if you are, this sets a threshold salary, and as long as you're making below that salary, and they're oftentimes kind of generous salaries for public sector work. As long as you're making below that and you stay in public service for 10 years, all of your loans will be paid off. You don't stay in the same job, but stay in public sector. So that's another way that people who are looking at public sector work with much lower salaries than private sector work can afford to go to law school. So that's something, again, that will vary by school, but you can look it up on their website. Finally, one of the most helpful tools is accesslex.org, which is an amazing nonprofit website that supports students who are applying to law school. And they have a calculator where you can put in, this is my scholarship, this is the cost of living, this is the school, this is the tuition, what will my loans be to pay back when I graduate. They also have a wonderful thing called the Scholarship Data Bank. So once you are accepted to a school and you get your scholarship funding from that school, and you decide to go there, then you can apply. There are all sorts of other scholarships out there that will fund you. A lot of them are regional or city-based, like the Bar Association for Multnomah County probably has some kind of scholarship that they will give people who are going to law school. So depending on where you're from, there may be something out there. Also, obviously, diverse students in all these different ways that I've mentioned before. Also, those scholarships support those students as well. So first gen, all of that stuff. These are all sort of some funding things that hopefully will take some of the sting out of the law school application process. These are two programs that I just want to throw out there because you will hear about them on Reddit and elsewhere. There are two law schools that offer to students from any school early acceptance. One is the Harvard program, and the other one is the Columbia program. They're both similar, and they allow you basically to be accepted by Harvard or Columbia before your senior year of undergrad, and then you agree as part of that, if you are accepted, that you will take 2 years or more off before you start law school. So it doesn't mean that if you apply to the Harvard Junior Deferral Program, that means you'd apply probably by July 1st of junior year. Both of these schools have lots of information on these programs on their website. And then you'd be interviewed over the summer, probably have a decision definitely before classes start for your senior year. And so you would know that you were going to Harvard in 2 years. You do need a plan. You don't need a job, obviously, because you're only going to be a rising senior when you're applying. But you do need a plan. They'll be interested in knowing, well, so how are you going to spend this deferral time off? Also, too, they don't care really, again, what you do, as long as it's something substantive that advances your life, your career in some way. The Columbia LEAD program is a little different. It's kind of in addition to the Harvard program, it also targets juniors, but also seniors. So you can actually apply to Columbia as a senior for this program and defer for a couple of years. Again, they want people to have a plan. And the LEAD program refers to, I forget what the acronym exactly stands for, but it's basically for people who are interested in entrepreneurial ventures, and they even have money that they give out to people for other ventures. So so you'd apply in the summer after your third year, your junior year, and then you'd have to have a deferral plan for at least 2 years. So people often say, well, suppose I don't get in the program, can I just then apply to Harvard as a senior? No, you can't apply to Harvard as a senior. You can't apply to Columbia as a senior, but you can't apply to Harvard as a senior because they'll be just wondering like, well, you said you wanted to defer, but now you don't want to defer. Now you just, do you know what you want to do? So you can apply to Harvard down the road after you do, something for a couple of years. Certainly you can, but not right away. So those are kind of two programs. Tough to get into, as you can imagine, but interesting out there. All right. How can CLBR help? Meeting with me, talking through whether law is the right fit for you. What are the different careers out there in law? I can help you with job shadowing with attorneys, judges, whoever. Internships. I sent out to the pre-law list Google group today about an internship. It's been out there for a while. I just wanted to highlight that there's an internship with the Oregon District Court, the Federal District Court here in Portland, and that closes on Friday. So, but there's lots of internship opportunities, and again, I'm happy to meet and discuss with you about those. And those can be helpful for law school, not essential, but helpful in terms of your law school application. I'm happy to review your resume for law school, any of the essays. This goes for whether you're a student or an alum applicant. Can help determine target schools. And later on in the process, if you get a wait list, if you get wait lists from a law school, which pretty much everybody does get wait listed from some law school or other, then you send them what's called a letter of continued interest, and I can help review those for you. Also, too, law schools are open to reconsidering their scholarship thing, not negotiating. They don't negotiate, but they will reconsider scholarships. So and that's a process too, and so we can cover that. So this is all stuff that would take place like in March, February, March, even early April of the year before you're going to start law school. So let's see here. I think we're just about done. All right. Yeah, just as kind of wrapping up here. And if you did bring questions, I'm happy to answer those. But just remember, you can always meet with me or whoever the pre-law advisor is when you're looking at applying to law school, whether an alum or a current student. Doesn't matter. You can set up appointments on Handshake. Email me for quick questions. You can send me resumes and essays for review. So we have a lot of support in our office. That's the most important thing, I think, probably for today's session. It's just to let you know that we have a lot of support for our applicants to law school, whether you are a graduating senior, whether you'll be graduating next year, or whether you'll be applying, you're thinking about, well, law school at some point in the future, but I'm not sure I want to go right after undergrad. Take some time off from school for a while, work and be an adult and that kind of thing for a while. Always a good thing. But we'll be here for you whenever you want to come back and go through the process. We'll be happy to help you with that. So with that, I will open it up to questions. Do either of you have any questions?
I was wondering if oh, sorry, Serena. If it was like really necessary to know like what exactly, like what type of law you wanted to go into when applying for like personal statements and such.
That's a really good question. No, it's not like one specific thing, but based on your life experience, hopefully on, like I have a student now who's a rising junior, and she's working with domestic violence victims, and so that that would be something that maybe she wants to continue on because that's where her experience is, or a student who is whose parents were undocumented, then then they're interested in immigration work because of that. I mean, that may be something. If you're part of, have you worked on several environmental related projects? Is that something that interests you? Are you thinking about business as a career? What does that interest you? the kind of issues of the unhoused. I mean, it could be anything that interests you, but those two things. It doesn't have to be. I know I want to be a public defender because the criminal justice system is broken and there's mass incarceration, and I just want to go, fight that. Well, it doesn't have to be that specific, but looking at public defender options are good. But I would say if you want to do that, work for the DC Public Defender's Office for a summer. They have an amazing program there. They pay decently for the summer, and you work on undergraduates will work under supervision of an attorney, meet with the clients in jail, go to court, interview witnesses, try to help. Oftentimes what they do is work on post-trial so that the defendant has been found guilty by the jury. Then oftentimes what will happen before the sentencing, you will go out and you will interview friends and family of that defendant and come up with their stories on why this person should get a lighter sentence, who they really are, flesh out for the court, other than just somebody who has been charged with and has been found convicted of committing a crime, but they're this is like the first time, they're otherwise great family member, whatever it is, but you go out and you interview people. So I would say do that. But yeah, you need to have a couple ideas based on something. Either that you've had some personal experience with it, or you've volunteered, you've had an activity that you've done on campus or off campus that somehow involves some issue of law. That's what it is. But most people will if they go to law school, very few people go to law school and ended up doing what they thought they were going to do when they applied. But they want you to have some idea, but these are some things that I would be interested in pursuing. And they know that it's just tentative because you haven't started law school yet. Did that answer that one, or?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Serena, did you have one, or?
Yes, I was just wondering, there's a lot of talk about like the T14 schools, and does the prestige of a school matter if you're not interested in the corporate, like big law type of stuff, like more of the public interest, public defender stuff that you just mentioned? Does it really matter as much?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. The T14, yes, is definitely large corporate firms will. I'm trying to think of Stoll Reeves, maybe in Portland, is one. It's kind of a larger firm. But even Stoll Reeves, which is one of the big firms, one of the big corporate firms, will look at people locally. They'll take the top people from Lewis and Clark and even Willamette who will work for them. But it's very tough for people from, like a state, you're in a larger market like, New York or something where you've got, 15 law schools or whatever. It's those big firms are mostly going to hire from NYU and Columbia. They're two law schools right there. And then they will hire from lower down schools, but then you have to be higher in the class in order to be able to get in to those big firms. So it's that. It's also greater access to federal clerkships. On those 509 reports, that should also list percentage of students who pursue clerkships right after graduation and what percent are state and what percent are federal. So those schools will have greater access to those. And if you want to clerk at the district court level or at the appellate level, those are going to be easier sort of the higher ranked law school that you go to. Other than that, I think you're right. I think that public sector work, people tend to hire mostly on the dues that you've paid. I mean, what have you done in this area to convince us that you really want this to be your career? Because there's not as much money, obviously, as there is in the private sector. And so they want people who are really dedicated to that issue, because that's what gets you up in the morning, is being dedicated and doing good work for people. So, it does, coming from a T14 does help somewhat with big name nonprofits like NAACP, Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ACLU, Sierra Club. A lot of them do look for that. Also, if you wanted to ever go into law teaching, in a law school, again, T14 schools tend to send more of their people into those kind of positions than other schools. But that said, people have wonderful and fulfilling lives, no matter where they are and what school they went to. Really, it matters, it's somewhat, you look at the percentages, and as long as the percentages of people going into JD required jobs on the 509 reports, as long as those are good, then, you'll be fine. It's true that most schools, like the T14 schools, tend to be more national. So that say you go to an NYU, you'll have a much easier time getting a job, in Portland, say, than somebody who went to a non-T14 school, say in Boston, and also wants to go to Portland. So because it will be better known, and there'll be more alums around. People often get hired by their alums. So like for Stoll Reeves, say, big corporate firm in Portland, they will hire top people. They will always have a lot of people from local schools because those are the people who are there. They want to stay there, but they will take the top people. But it's tougher for them to compete for those big jobs. But I think what happened, I mentioned earlier about trying to stay in with the school. Geography tends to be important because if you really want to work in public sector in a certain location, then it does help to be able to work there during the school year, be familiar with the community that you're working with, and have the most contact possible and do the most dues paying that you can with the Public Defender Service of DC, if that's where you really want to work, or the ACLU in New York, or whatever it might be, the Coalition for the Homeless in San Francisco or the Bay Area. I mean, it's that kind of thing sort of connects you there. But I would say, oftentimes people too will say, well, because what may happen is that obviously you have your safety schools and you'll get a lot of scholarship money from them. And then you have your reach schools, which you may get into, but you may not get any money from them or very little money from them. And so then it becomes a decision as well. Do I take, if I'm going to do public sector work, does it make more sense for me to go to the lower rank school and end up with less debt that I have to pay off? Then it's okay, easier to make ends meet on the lower salary. Or do I go for the more prestigious school and, maybe they have a better LRAP program, but it'll make it easier entry into, clerkships and stuff like that, which will lead to more opportunities and, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of it is something that you can think about later on in the process too, so yeah, but both of these are really, really good questions and tough ones, really tough ones. Sarah or Serena, any other questions?
I think that's it from me for now.
Okay, great. I'm happy to meet with both of you individually if you have specific questions about your own application or timing maybe at this point. I'm happy to talk about that. Always happy to review resumes and cover letters and stuff like that, whether it's for law school or internships or whatever. Happy to do that as well. So anything from you, Serena, at all, or?
Yes, was just quickly wondering, when you say at the very beginning, you said, I think it was apply by August 31st. And if we're, sorry, October 31st, and if
Right.
we're planning to apply like after, like during our senior year here, does that mean October 31st of your senior year? It's like the deadline.
Yes. Yeah. So that would be
Oh.
if you're going to be graduating in 2025, then you would be applying by October 31st of 24, intending to go to law school in August of 25. So
Okay.
in other words, right after you graduate, you want to go right into law school, which is totally fine. But that would be the deadline of October 31st of the fall before you want to go. Yeah. So, and what you would do too is you would, because then obviously you'll get your GPA will change after fall semester. And you probably won't have heard back from most of the schools by the time you get your fall grades. So then you would just send them. I would send to each school directly your new transcript, including your fall grades. So, and then by the decisions will be made long before you're graduating. So, but then they will want they also want a full transcript once you graduate before you start law school, because they have to mostly because they have to make sure that you did in fact graduate, so that you can go to law school or start law school. Anything else? Cool. Well, great. Well, it's been good chatting with you. We are just at 3 o'clock. Perfect timing. So this is just the start of the conversation. Feel free to follow up with me on any of the stuff. If anything you think about tonight, I'm just thinking about this and I don't quite remember, then happy to talk to you about that. Happy to answer quick question over email, or you can set up a time to chat via Zoom through Handshake. So great. Thanks to both of you for being a small but attentive audience with good questions. I appreciate it. And I will look forward to working with you in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.